Let me see. We've got Elliot on the line. Elliot is calling in from Nevada. Pronouns are he, him. And Elliot wants to talk about evolving sexuality and the discovery of one's identity. Eli, am I close?
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I was just wanting to add on to the conversation of just like labels and identity generally. I find it interesting that there's a lot of pressure on people having specific labels and sticking to it. And then, if you happen to be like, oh, I also like, this gender, or somebody who's non-binary or non-conforming, people are like, well, didn't you say you were gay? So that doesn't really, track what you said. And just like there's a lot of pressure of staying to the label once you have it, and people kind of judging for you kind of going out of that realm and discovering your identity. And I feel like that's really damaging as well to people who are trying to figure out what's going on. And it can be kind of scary sometimes.
It absolutely can. And I will throw it over to Sinn for the first word.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, I think it's like those, you're kind of afraid of the gatekeepers, right? I mean, because then they're going to try to tell you your experience is not right.
I kind of had I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you if I did.
No, you're good.
I kind of had an interesting experience myself. I'll keep it short. I'm transgender. I'm a transgender male. And before I realized I was trans, I mean, I've always been trans, but before I had realized, oh, that's what's going on, and oh, that's what this crippling dysphoria is. I thought maybe I was a lesbian at the time, and then I realized, with the help of another trans friend, oh, I'm trans. That's what's going on with my body, and all these weird thoughts and feelings. And I started transitioning and became a lot more comfortable with my body. And for a long time, I thought, oh, well, I'll never hook up with another trans man. That would be, that's just not something I'd be into. And then I did, and it ended up being probably the best experience I've ever had, just with comfort and with communication and us talking about what we can say and how to refer to certain parts and just terminology and making sure everybody was respected. And then I did the same thing with just a bunch of other people of different sexualities and gender identities. And I realized, oh, I might actually be queer. And now it's just been an interesting journey.
Yeah. And I mean, I can even speak to this a little bit because like I myself, when I'm telling people I'm queer and I kind of like girls this way, but I tend not to like guys this way. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is how things must be for me. Then I stumbled across a couple of trans male performers in the porn industry. And I was like, well, this I'm not attracted to, but this I'm attracted to. And this isn't guy. And so, it's that whole thing of like putting myself in a box because of the things that I usually say about who I like. But that's why I try to just say I tend to like this and I usually like this. But I'm not saying like I can't like these other things, because I do. I'll find that person that I'm like, well, wait a minute, I am attracted to you. So I guess I was wrong about those, labels I put on myself, or those like barriers I erected for myself. Because I think a lot of it so much is just you see a human being and you like them or you don't, and it can be so freeing just loosening that grip again.
Yeah, like
I'd also like to point out. Sorry, go ahead, Elliot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say what you all were talking about with purity culture. I feel like that also plays into that with this whole, oh, you need to be this certain way, or once you say you're this certain way, you have to be, and that forces people other people force you to be in a box, and you kind of internalize that and therefore put yourself in a box, and that you put that pressure on yourself, and other people putting pressure on you, plus you putting pressure on yourself, really doesn't help people grow and discover identity. And there's a lot of shame put into it. And
Yes.
that's really damaging in the long run.
Yeah, Elliot, you more or less nailed exactly what I was going to say, which is a lot of our sense of identity is the result of cultural conditioning, and a lot of the questioning and confusion and dysphoria that we tend to feel is because we're not taught to just be allowed to explore who we are and allowed to be curious and allowed to change our minds. It's you have to fit into this small little box. But then if you're outside the box, now you have to do the brave thing of coming out and saying, "Oh, I don't fit inside that box," which can be incredibly intimidating for a lot of people. And especially when they're in an environment that says that whatever that is wrong. And I think if our culture could upfront from the youngest age of a child allow that sort of exploration and that curiosity and tell them that they don't need to have answers right away, that they're allowed to change their minds, that they're allowed to be a different person over a period of time. I think that would take care of a lot of the issues that we have struggling with our identity. And I think Sinn put it beautifully when she said that openness, like being open to explore, which is something you have to step outside of the cultural norm to do, right? You have to kind of go against the grain to be open. And I just want to really validate you, Elliot. Like, I think it's super awesome how you talk about you thought you were this, and then you thought you were that, and then you thought you were this. What that means to me is that you were open-minded and you were searching and you were like, you know what? If I stumble across something and it feels good to me or it seems to apply, I'm gonna go ahead and be okay with that. And that to me is fantastic. I wish all people could take that stance on sexuality.
Mhm.
For a while, it didn't feel like searching as much as like blindly fumbling and tripping over everything in my way and leaving
That's what we all do.
behind me.
But yeah, however the journey goes, the ability to accept
Screaming,
it.
what is
I
going
think.
on? Why am I like this?
Mhm.
Well, and that journey becomes a lot easier when we're not trying to be perfectionistic about it. You know, that like this conversation about gatekeeping, it really is about holding people to a certain standard or trying to expect them to be perfect in their journey or perfect in their fitting a particular label or perfect in their understanding of themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did an episode a few months back about mindful self-compassion, and I think that that is the most important and powerful tool that you have here, because if you are going to like criticize yourself and beat yourself up every time you quote get it wrong, or you say that you are interested in something that turns out not to be your cup of tea, if you put too much weight on that, then you're never going to risk it. You're never going to put yourself out there and be curious. You're never going to, buy that outfit that maybe matches some gender or kink identity. You're never going to buy that toy or experiment with that role play or whatever else if you're too locked into an idea of who you are, or if you feel like getting it wrong, quote unquote, is going to be met with like punishment and shame, rather either from yourself or your community or your partner, then you're not going to be curious. And what is our sexuality if not an opportunity to be curious and playful?
Absolutely. Speaking of playful, Sinn said erected, so everybody take a drink. Mm-hmm. All right, Elliot, thank you very much. It
I'm a
was a
little,
great conversation.
I'm a little
No, go
angry
ahead.
with myself. I'm a little angry with myself as well because for a while, I will admit, I definitely fed into that, and I'm certain probably made those stigmas, bigger by conforming to it. For a long time when I first come out, I believed I was gay and only liked men, which was fine. But my mentality was kind of more on the toxic side of, well, that's the only way people are going to accept me as a real man is if I, as a trans man, am a gay man. And that was really hard when I discovered I like trans men and trans women and people who are gender nonconforming and other queer people in general, it was kind of shattered everything I had built in my head that I thought I knew. And it kind of all was almost like it was floating above me and shattered and rained down on me. And I went, well, I did that to myself in a way, because I built myself this box and I sat in it, and then didn't allow myself to think that it was okay. If I was to be accepted by society, I had to be a certain way. And I put myself in that box, and then I told myself that. And that kind of was hurtful to myself and really closed off a lot of opportunities. And I feel like, again, going back to the stigma thing, is the societal thing is we need to be a lot more willing to just give people time to grow without adding that pressure to them, because then you put the pressure on yourself and then you end up hurting yourself.
Well, and I hope you don't feel too much like shame or guilt from that time period, because, honestly, you were doing the best you could with the information you had, and that's all we can do. And it's just awesome to hear that your thoughts and feelings were able to evolve from that,
Absolutely. I guess the takeaway is love yourself, discover yourself. If you don't know today, tomorrow, years from now, centuries from now, it's okay.
Yep, it is.
I love that advice.
Absolutely.
The journey, not the destination. All that good
Yeah.
process stuff. I really appreciate that philosophy.
Awesome.
Well, thank you
Elliot,
guys so
well,
much
we
for
do
having
need to
me.
move on and wrap up, but man, that was a great contribution. I really want to thank you for calling in and sharing that with us. And I'm so glad you found your light in the dark.
I appreciate you taking the time to have me on.
All right. Well, thank you very much for calling. And wow, those are some great calls. They're kind of giving me the feels up in here tonight. That was
Yeah, I
great.
know.